Is he looking yellow to me?
Recording's going to start in a moment.
Yellow tins of you.
Thank you very much. Just croeso and welcome to the Special Education Scrutiny meeting on the 2nd of December 2021. This meeting will be recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audio of those individuals speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Can I ask Committee Services, have they received any apologies, please?
Hi, Chair. Yes, we've received apologies from Councillor Hardacre, Councillor Oliver and Councillor Julian Simmons.
Thank you very much indeed. Could I ask, Mark, that you could take a roll call for this evening, please?
Yeah, no problem, Chair. So starting alphabetically, Councillor Aldworth. Councillor Andrews.
Present.
Councillor Bevan. Councillor Collis.
Present.
Councillor David.
Present.
Councillor Farina Childs.
Present.
Councillor Stone. Councillor Havard. Councillor James. Councillor Jones. Councillor Miles.
Present.
Councillor Parry.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Emma.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Havard. Mrs. Ireland. Mr. James.
Present.
Mrs. Millington.
Present.
And Mr. Weston.
Present.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark. Going on to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interests in respect of any item of business on this agenda, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Can I ask, are there any declarations, please? Okay, I'll take that as a no. If I can then hand over to Councillor Ross Whiting, our Cabinet Member, who will introduce our presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As members will see, this special meeting is a little bit different from most of the Education Scrutiny Committee meetings, as it will be an in-depth look at post-16 opportunities in our schools. I know several committee members have previously raised this topic in the past, Councillors Havard, James and others I know in particular, and have expressed an interest in finding out more about our post-16 offer. As we know, the transition from school into the workplace is a key one and something we absolutely need to get right. The presentation that will be delivered tonight by Paul O'Neill, John Fabes, as well as Chris Parry, the head at Lewis School Pengham, and thank you all for being here. They'll be incorporating the experiences of some young people, which I hope gives members a good insight into the available provision. I also think this will give members a chance to ask questions and engage with post-16 opportunities, understand the journey the local authority is on, increase awareness of examples of good practice and the Caerphilly Pathways Initiative. I don't know whether Kerry Cole wants to add anything or whether we want to go straight into the presentation.
Thanks, Ross. I was just going to add that, it's important that the underlying ethos that we have in the education department in Caerphilly is that, you know, all children matter equally, and it's really important that all young people have opportunities to identify and be supported on whatever pathway they choose. And I think often we celebrate academic achievement a little bit more than other achievements, which are equally important. So I think, you know, one of the underpinning principles this evening, as I'm sure you'll see work through the presentation, is our appetite to make sure that all young people have these opportunities, and that it doesn't matter where you live in Caerphilly, you know, you can be supported to have those opportunities. So I also am looking forward to it. I'm particularly delighted to have the company of two former students of Lewis School Pengham, Becky Rosser and Sam Morgan. We'll be hearing from them later, and we'll have an opportunity, I'm sure, to ask questions before they leave the meeting. But we'll take questions at the end for the general presentation, if that's okay, because there is quite a lot to get through and quite a lot of people involved in presenting. So sit back and enjoy. And I hope that, you know, what you hear tonight will answer a lot of your questions. Inevitably, it won't. Inevitably, you'll have new questions and new areas of inquiry, which we can pick up in another report at another time. So this is an attempt by us to give you that overview that, you know, you've really wanted. So thank you. Paul, over to Dr. Paul Warren, starting off.
Okay, evening everyone. I hope that you can see the PowerPoint that's just come on screen. Lovely to see you all. Okay, right. Yeah, evening everyone. We're going to take you through, as Kerry has introduced, and Ross as well. This presentation tonight is about the LA's journey, the local authority's journey towards meeting the ambition for all of our learners. And in this instance tonight, it's about having a suitable post-16 destination that meets the needs of our learners, our young people, and sets them up for a happy, successful future where they are financially secure. This presentation is centered on the learner, and it's about how we are our endeavour to make sure that everything we do, you know, we maximise opportunities for all the young people across Caerphilly. So currently, we're in the process of reviewing and revising our education strategy, and Scrutiny will have further opportunity to engage with this process at the start of next year, when we'll talk about our self-evaluation and our strategic planning moving forward. And the aim of the strategy will be to accurately determine the needs of children, learners and young people living in Caerphilly, and to make sure that we put the right level of support in place so that, you know, they achieve our collective ambition. The post-16 offer is integral to the strategy, and we will challenge ourselves to include milestones for success where we will make ourselves accountable and ensure that we remain on track to achieve our ambition and throughout the life of the strategy. So as has been said, for the presentation tonight, a number of speakers, including Paul from the O'Neill, Head of Youth Service, John Fabes, and of course delighted to welcome Chris Parry alongside Becky and Sam, you know, who'll be able to put the offer into a real life context. So through this presentation tonight, you'll have the opportunity to identify best practice, to understand pupils' pathway journeys, and also have the opportunity to view an exciting new resource that's been developed over the last 12 months. But it's important to state that this isn't just a presentation for us, but part of our ongoing self-evaluation processes. Therefore, at the end of the meeting, we would welcome comments and suggestions. There will be questions which we'll endeavour to answer. There might be suggestions and questions that we will, of course, take away with us, and we'll utilise those in the development of the strategy. So I'm going to hand over to John Fabes, first of all, who will talk you through some of the best practice that has been identified through ESTIN and their thematic reviews that take place across Wales. This best practice helps us to inform the actions required in our revised strategy, reflect on our current offer, and we make sure that we embed that best practice within the work we do as an LA. So I'm going to hand over to John.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Back in January 21, Estin went out to investigate partnership activity in the post-16 sector. And part of the report that they produced contained a section which focused on supporting learner transition to post-16 education. And it was a very useful section for us at this particular point in time. On the screen there, in this particular slide, you can see some of the key elements that Estin found and recommend for future practice. So quickly running through those, the first element is about the offer of a wide range of experiences and activities to young people. Ideally, careers education should begin back in Key Stage 3, but obviously as you get into Key Stage 4, it becomes more critical. And the opportunity for young people to engage with a whole range of providers is considered to be very important. The interaction between providers is also key. So between school staff, career staff, work-based learning, college staff, so that the schools, colleges and work-based trainers understand each other and can provide that sort of package of support to young people. I think it's they found as they went round schools across Wales that learners do value the advice and guidance they get in schools. And they were stressing, of course, that this advice and guidance needs to be impartial and focused on the needs of those learners. So that's quite critical. And as Paul Warren indicated just now, this is about being learner focused and providing the right information across a whole spectrum of needs in the student population in Caerphilly. Strong and collaborative partnership working should be evident. And we do this through local partnerships of school sixth forms across Caerphilly and also engaging in those wider providers. And later in the presentation, when we look at the Caerphilly Pathways website, you'll see how that collaboration begins to materialise. And that's part of this strategic planning in the wider community. We are undertaking reviews of post-16 provision in the county. We have all the stakeholders engaged around the table, whether it's work-based training, schools, colleges, they're all present, so that we are pulling in stakeholders to get that wider engagement in strategic planning. And one of the other challenges we have is making sure that parents get that information as well. So what we're producing in Caerphilly is something that parents can engage with. They can sit down with their youngsters at home and have clear access to information about progression routes for their young people. So that is a sort of backdrop from Estin to which we are trying to work within Caerphilly. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, John. So I'm now going to welcome Chris Parry, the head teacher of Lewis Pengham School, and delighted that Becky Rosser and Sam Morgan are also here to give the perspective from the school. So I'm just going to unshare my PowerPoint and welcome Chris.
Hi everybody, thank you for this opportunity tonight for me to speak to you and also Becky and Sam to join in on our conversation later. I think there's been some IT difficulties as on occasion for them joining, but I think they're both in now, so that's a good thing. Yeah, generally, look, I'm going to try and kind of summarize very briefly. I'm the least important part of this three people speaking tonight, just to kind of give you an idea about the processes that we see at Lewis School Pengham and the work that we kind of do around the post-16 offer and vocational education in general. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Parry, the head of Lewis Pengham. So as I'm sure you know, the last boys' school in Wales, we've got we've got an all-boys school, but a mixed sixth form. So the reason Becky is able to speak to us today is she's part of our consortium at sixth form in terms of the work that we do there. And generally, unashamedly, the kind of purpose and ethos of our school in Pengham is really to make sure that we put as many people as possible into the community in as highly paid roles and as successful roles in employment as we possibly can. So I've kind of worked in this community and served this community as a teacher and head teacher for 24 years. And I'm passionate about the idea that everybody should understand really the work that we do and the important part the schools are playing in making sure that these young people find the paths that they need to in order to be successful. For us, you're going to hear a lot tonight, people talking about pathways, because it's a popular term and it's a useful metaphor in describing the journey that young people go on in school. And in lots of ways, it is important. And I do like to think about it as a kind of young people working towards a destination. And however, the health warning that I have around that is really this, that when we set people on these pathways, it's not as straightforward of just thinking that we're going to move from one point into another.
Sorry, Chair, I think we've lost Chris. I think his IT might have gone.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it?
So shall we move on and then we come back to Chris in a bit when he comes back in?
Thank you, Paul. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let me just reopen the PowerPoint. Okay. Hoping you can see that again. So, all right. So I'm going to come back to John. So when Chris comes back into the virtual room, we'll bring him back in. If we move on back to John then, and we'll talk about, he's going to give us a high level view of the learner pathway that Chris was just referring to. Okay, so John, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Could we go up to the next slide? All right, thank you. What we've done here is to talk to schools across the county, and is Chris coming back in? Shall I pause?
Okay, is Chris back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Welcome back.
These are the joys of live interactions when your daughter phones you to have a conversation with you at 10 to 6 because she doesn't realise you're still in work. Right, sorry about that, everybody. No, what I was saying was, generally, if I get back to my point, the point I was making is that you can hear lots of people tonight talk about pathways, because pathways is a useful metaphor for us in describing the journey young people have. What I would want to do as a kind of health warning is to point out to everybody really that even though that's a useful way of thinking about this process, the key point in school is about flexibility, that actually when we kind of have discussions with young people about their journey in life and where they want to get to, we've got to keep reminding people that they get to swap in and out of these pathways. And even those students that decide to follow what we may consider to be an academic route may at any point decide to pursue an option that they would regard as more vocational. So the way that I look at things is that we are following this kind of pathway and with our young people and towards a destination, but ultimately we're looking at different junctions at which point pupils can jump on or jump off that pathway. So the key point for us in secondary school are those junctions that take place at the ages of 14, 16, 18, and even 21, which is going to be later and after students have left us, but we're still interested in that journey and still in constant communication with pupils even after they've gone. Just to summarise where that would mean, at 14, that first junction 14, what's important for us there is that's when our students are choosing GCSE options. And they may be choosing academic options that we would think about, GCSEs in maths, English, chemistry, science, wherever they may be. But obviously for us at that point as well, a key thing for many of our young people is the fact they can take what we would regard as a vocational option. So at Lewis School Pengham, around about 80% of our learners will take up that vocational option at the age of 14. They will then pursue subjects as varied as, in terms of the vocational offer, engineering, music, public services, vocational qualifications in science and sport, and they will pursue those qualifications for the next 2 years. The next junction that we come to after that is junction 16, at the age of 16. And again, we have an opportunity for pupils to jump off at this point or jump onto a different pathway, right? So at 16, we have students who are choosing to pursue level 3 qualifications, which we might regard as kind of A-level qualifications, but also level 3 vocational qualifications too. And also crucially for us at 16, making sure that some of our learners are able to go straight into apprenticeships at that point. But that is a really crucial junction for us, for everybody to be aware of the different pathways they can follow at that point. Once we carry on with that journey then, where we get to next is we get to junction 18, where our students who have been pursuing those qualifications, either in college or the students that remained with us in school. And it's important to kind of recognise at 16, about 50% or more of our learners are going to go to work in college or into full-time employment. So at 18 then, some of our students are deciding whether they're going to go to university, or like the two young people that you'll meet and we'll talk shortly in this presentation, that they're actually going to go into apprenticeships directly from school. And once again, at that point, the key point is the kind of the advice that we provided. I would argue as well that, like I've said, at 21, so even after students would finish a traditional degree course, or when they're a little bit older, that students again at that point, even if they've pursued an academic career all the way through school, can often jump off at that point and look at some further vocational qualifications. So my daughter, who was just trying to ring me, is currently starting a teacher training qualification. There's an awful thing to happen. And in terms of her involvement, she's decided that she wants some vocational training because she wants to be a teacher. The key issue for us in school is making sure that at each point of that pathway, that we are providing the appropriate guidance for our students to make sure that they're making the choices that we want to at this point. So for me, the key point for me in school is that we look at our partnerships, and those partnerships are crucial to each one of those junctions being taken by students successfully. And the partnerships that we work with and the things that are vital to us is basically essentially starting within my own school, experienced members of staff in school who are able to provide advice for students at every single point of our journey about the type of offers that are out there, to make sure that they're aware of all the kind of available opportunities. And I'm very lucky in school that my kind of pastoral and support teams in school have a huge amount of experience in understanding, you know, what offers exist, and are constantly trying to find out more about the type of opportunities that are available for young people. I'd have to mention as well, what's crucial for us are our partners, both in the college in Ystrad or other colleges locally, and also my partners in terms of the Upper Rumney Valley Consortia that offers educational opportunities post-16. So fellow head teachers in Idris Davis and Healthy and Lewis Girls work together to make sure that all our young people are provided with as many opportunities as possible. The career service have been really important right the way through that journey as well, and we meet with the career service often, and we've constantly got career service support inside school to provide opportunities for and advice for our young people. And for us in Lewis, perhaps a little bit different than may exist in some schools. We're very lucky that we work in close partnership with Educate, a provider that looks at apprenticeships right the way across the local area. And we meet with Educate on a regular basis as well, just to make sure that we are making our students aware of all the available apprenticeships that exist locally, and to rely on them really for advice for our students in school about the type of opportunities that are out there. So I can talk about pathways, I can talk about those partnerships and why they're important. Ultimately, however, the thing that we rely on more than anything is the people in our community, and by our community, and that includes the students that leave us to go into the world of work. We really aggressively pursue relationships with students who've left school to make sure that we're aware of where they are, what they're doing, and what they're working at. So what we're able to do then, like for this evening, is able to contact people and ask them if they can come and help us and provide some advice to people. So we generally have a really active alumni community that we lean on really heavily to come into school and give advice to our students about the world of work and what's happening out there. And they can provide really, really concrete kind of guidance to young people about the type of thing that they need to do in order to kind of be successful. So that has ranged for us from anything from students who've gone on to be pilots for British Airways, students who've been successful in the music and film industries with practical jobs there, right, that have kind of emerged from their pursuit of vocational education in school. Students like you see, like Becky tonight, who's currently working at Airbus, or Sam, who's working at Deloitte. We use those students to come back, and former students to come back and talk to our young people, just to provide that extra level of advice. And we're also incredibly reliant as well on the wider community to tell us about opportunities that exist out there. So we've been really lucky in the past where local businesses have contacted us about the possibility of an apprenticeship going in their business. And then we've been able to secure young people in school to go into that apprenticeship. I was contacted by a parent recently of a former pupil who's told me that in her place of work, they're looking for apprenticeships currently to work in an area of manufacturing, and to put that information out to students to see if we can find someone for them. And that's something that we really encourage, and we want to see more of. I sometimes think that in the wider community, often many people, what they see about schools is that they will just often see those big days of celebration in school that are kind of publicised heavily by the media, GCSE results day, A-level results day, and the language that are around those days is often just about those students, particularly at 18, going off to university. This is pupil A, he's achieved this many A stars, this is the university he's going to. Where for us in school, even though those days are really important, what is equally important for us is celebrating the fact that many of our students are going to go into the workplace, apprenticeships or other type of areas. And that's just as important to us as anything else is. So that's enough of me babbling on and getting interrupted by people calling. So I'm gonna throw this open a little bit at this point. So I hope they're still on the call. So first of all, I was just going to ask Becky. Becky, you there?
She was.
Becky's definitely. I saw her briefly for a second.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm here.
brilliant, thank you.
So,
Becky, do you want to explain some of the things that what you're doing now and what happened when you're in school? Because your story is brilliant.
yeah, so what it was, well, not many girls kind of really go into engineering, and I was in Hildy at a time. So I originally joined engineering at GCSE level. It's really interested me, and the idea of kind of going to a boys' school didn't really bother me. It was more of a challenge, I guess. So I started obviously engineering GCSE, made my way to A level, managed to get some good grades at the end of it. I did originally go to university afterwards, but it wasn't for me. I then left to go and do some, well, basically wanted to see what it's like in the real world. So I did some odd jobs here and there to get a bit of experience. And then I was a bit lucky, I managed to pick up a role as a cleaner, funny enough, within British Airways. I then used my experience, my qualifications to get on the tools. So they then give me some experience on the tools, getting my workbook done, so get some experience there. And then I decided to apply for an apprenticeship as I was fed up of contracting. So I applied for a few apprenticeships across the country, really. At the end of it, I got offered 2. One was at Marshall's in Cambridge, working military. And the second one was at Filton, where I'm at now, Airbus, which for me it worked well because they offered me to do a HNC. I've currently just completed my 2 years in one. With at the agency, so I've got a distinction. And at the moment, I'm currently doing, so my engineering is plant manufacturing and engineering, that's the apprenticeship. So I work in different departments. I've got quality, design, project management, finance, working on the A400M, so military based. And you really adapted on the skills I learned at school. It was very hard to kind of know my path. You don't really know what you want to do at that age. But I found the teachers did support me quite a bit, especially being one of the only girls. I was the only girl at GCSE, and then there was a few girls in A levels, but as far as I'm aware, I'm one of the only ones that stuck it out. But if it wasn't for the guys, I guess at school, I wouldn't have got the confidence to progress and really have the basis you need to understand what it is to be an engineer. So that's where I'm at the moment. My apprenticeship is 4 years, and my apprenticeship is out of 500 people, between 500 and 1,000 people. I was the only one who got it.
See, that's one of those situations that makes me smile about things. And Becky's very humble in kind of laying down kind of where she's been in terms of her success. But her story, she's worth her weight in gold, right? Because she is one of very few girls who kind of engage in engineering both at 14 and 16, right? And I've told her that she's an inspiration, although I'm not sure she believes me in the way that she should. And as she said, she came down to us as part of the consortia that we offer post-16. So it is a big step leaving your school at Healthy and spending some time in a boys' school, particularly challenging environment to come and work in if you're a young girl. But she did pursue a level 3 engineering qualification at post-16, and then has obviously gone on to great success. And I'm really grateful as well to Becky. I'm just getting some admin in now because she's going to come and talk to my students in the new year and kind of try and inspire another generation of engineers to go on and be successful as well. So I'm relying on you, Becky, better not let me down.
Well, from my opinion, as I've had so much help and support over the years, like you said, it's not hard, it's not easy getting into the industry, especially as a woman. I feel it's important for me to give a little bit back to help those that might feel the same way. I mean, it's always nerve-wracking, even as a boy. The competition's big these days.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have a little bit of support when you can. So I'm more than happy to help whenever.
Brilliant, thanks, Beth. And I think as well, the other point that I was going to make is it just reinforces that point about flexibility, that young people don't really know what they're going to do at 14, 16, 18, and they do need to be able to swap back and forth. The advice they get at that point and that support that the things that they do and are actually sensible and are going to end up make sure that they end up in a good position is really, really important. And we're very, very proud of Becky and the work that she's done and where she's ended up at the minute. Sam, just as proud of Sam as well. So yeah. Sam's story is a little bit different, isn't it, Sam? Right? But,
yeah, a little bit different.
Explain what you did as well.
Yeah, so I think through school I was in a similar situation to Becky, where, to be honest, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. All through school, picked my options based on, I think, things that I enjoyed for GCSE, and then went into sixth form as well. When I went into sixth form, I started working in a retail shop for just as part-time as well, alongside sort of my my full-time student responsibility, I guess, in school. But it took me a long time to decide what I wanted to do. So in sixth form, I applied for uni, applied for business management, did the exams, and still sort of came out a bit unsure. And I think after the first time round, I'll get to why, but the first time round I did my A-levels, I decided I didn't have the grades I wanted to go to the uni I wanted to go to, so I'd applied for business management in Swansea. So I did a third year of sixth form, very different to most people. I think there were 4 of us in total who did it. And after that, third year, I got the right grades I needed to get into uni. By that point, though, I'd sort of decided that I wanted to try something else. So throughout that year, I had loads of conversations with people in school. We had the Careers Wales advisor there as well, and just discussed different sort of options that you can do other than uni, because I felt all along I was so unsure about uni, probably not worth me going and then deciding to drop out in a few years' time. So I thought, why not try another option? So the apprenticeship was the sort of option that came up. So I joined Deloitte as a back in the day, it was called a sort of assistant role, a very admin role I started as, but on a level 3 business admin apprenticeship with Cardiff Vale College. And then after a year, I started another apprenticeship, which was my accountancy apprenticeship, so it's a level 7. But about 9 months in, again, I decided it's not what I wanted to do. So at 21, I'm still deciding where I want to go. And I think it's only this past 18 months I've sort of settled and decided what I want to work towards now. So I'm now doing project management, working towards becoming an assistant project manager. Done 3 qualifications this year. So I've done my Prince 2, my Agile PM, and also my Certified Scrum Master. But it obviously took a lot of time to get there. But I think, similar to Becky, there's so many sort of opportunities in school where things have come up that have talked about apprenticeships and other roles, other sort of things other than uni. I think one of the things I remember, which was really good actually, was the Careers Wales Enterprise Day, where employers or local employers come in, they talk to us. We had mock interviews with them, which give you those sort of interview skills. They look over your CV, which is quite nice as well, because you've got that perspective of what they think of your CV and how to change it and make it better. But it also gives us the opportunity to speak to those employers and get a bit of a different sort of perspective on things. one of the things now, to be honest, I'm doing with Deloitte as well is I'm doing exactly that, not with Careers Wales, but with Fitzallen High School directly, obviously as a Cardiff school, but going in and helping those students in a similar way that Careers Wales helped me when I was in Low School Pengam.
I'm also smiling because I'm taking full responsibility for Sam's success in the fact that he did spend 3 years with us in the sixth form, which is 1 year more than most students do, but that means he organised 2 proms, and he's the best organiser of a school prom that I've ever had. And ultimately, I think those skills in managing and putting on 2 successful proms has secured the fact that he's an excellent project manager. Now he's working for Deloitte. So I bring him back at a drop of a hat in this year's group, I'm telling you now. So that's a good thing as well. Look, I think one other point that I wanted to make earlier, and I kind of overlooked somewhat, I think that you can see from these stories about the importance of apprenticeships and the pathway that apprenticeships offer. And I think it's really important for schools as well to kind of engage in that process. So one of the things that we're doing currently is engaging with Educate to make sure that we offer an apprenticeship on our admin staff in school that is supported by the kind of additional financial support that Welsh Government offers. So we're putting that in place right now. So we hope that we have an apprenticeship that we offer each year for young people to come into and work in. So we are kind of contributing towards that process as well. I think that's important. And I hope this is okay, because I'm very conscious of the fact that both Sam and Becky have joined us this evening, and I don't particularly want to keep them around for ages. They're young people, they probably actually got a life to lead. And so I just wondered if anybody had some quick questions that they want to ask at this point, whether they could kind of add to the conversation here. I hope that's okay.
Councillor Derek Harvard. You're on silent, Derek.
Thank you. Apologies for being late. Sorry. I was really interested in hearing Becky's story in particular because I'm an engineer. I did a 5-year apprenticeship, Becky, in the aircraft industry, and I worked at Marshall Field for a little while, incidentally.
Okay.
Yeah. When I went in the RAF to do national service, I was able to continue my engineering. So I did HNC and I was in engineering until I started teaching in my mid-30s. But what I'm interested in, listening to your story, is why are there so few girls taking up engineering? Do you know the answer to that one?
I would say that I think it's very hard to fill women with confidence that they can do a man's role. I mean, it's you see a lot of women going into different industries and they try to accomplish what so long as just being a man's job. But I think it's perhaps from a young age, it's not just going into comp, but from a young age, women are encouraged to do men roles. I mean, when I was growing up, I was never one to play with Barbies, things like that. For me, it was Lego and building. And I think it's not just about the schools; it's the students, the parents, and the teachers. They don't encourage the children to become aware of what else is out there from a young age. And I think it's important to show children how diverse places can be and what the future can hold. So they are aware of other options as they grow up. It's not just the norm to go into something like hairdressing.
Yeah, I'd say just briefly to add to that, I think that's the key issue for us, is the idea that making young people aware of the opportunities that exist for them. I think still within our community that there are some quite not narrow is the wrong word, but the views of the type of areas of employment that people can go into tend to be kind of limited. So one of the things that we believe in very strongly is just using stories like Becky's and others to show the range of jobs that are available for people to go into. And I think that then encourages them through those success stories to think that they can do the same thing.
Yeah, so it's always about encouraging. I mean, that's you like my family. None of them has ever really been engineering. I'm the first engineer in the family, really, and it's been quite difficult. As I've had all the support I could ever want, but in terms of knowledge, it's quite limited. So I've gone into the world and I've found it myself. Yeah, I've made friends. And it's communication as well. You need to be confident enough to speak to people, get your name out there, and show people you are interested, and to make the connections that you need to get somewhere.
Can you indulge me for a moment, Chair? Becky, if you had a message to give to girls now, would you tell them get into engineering? You don't know what you're missing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say it's the way forward. I would. You got to prove yourself and everyone else wrong. I do. I love it, and it's an interesting job. You never stop learning. For me, I love it. And it gives you far in life. It gives you the opportunity to travel, experience more, and just enjoy the little things in life on a wider range.
That's music to my ears, Becky. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. And Councillor Brenda Miles.
Thanks, Chair. I was interested in the fact that Becky's now working in Filton and also had an opportunity to go to Cambridge to work. I wondered, Becky, do you think it's important that people in a similar situation to yourself are prepared to move, to look for the best opportunities to suit the career path that you want to progress into? Were the opportunities not do you feel there's a lack of opportunities locally?
Yeah. I feel there's a lack of opportunities locally, but I feel that there's not a wide range of opportunities that there are available. There are more opportunities in England. I applied for one in Ireland as well, but I applied for DKN. They were all, majority of them, even Ministry of Defence I applied for and I got an interview. They're all based in Bristol. But it's about growing up. I mean, the only way you're going to grow up and find who you are is by taking these big steps. I was willing to move to Cambridge. I'd found a place. I was ready to go. But for me and what I want in my career, Airbus just offered me more. They had you to learn more, learn better, higher. And I lived in Weston for a little bit. I still kept my place around locally. But my family were they supported me in every way, and I got and moved. But I travel now. I travel back. It's an hour and a half hour travel every day, so I tend to make the journey every day for me, which works out better. But I'd say if you keep yourself moving, and you're going to get far, because it shows companies you're interested as well. You're willing to make that big change in life.
Yeah. And thanks for that, Becky. And I didn't catch where are you based, Sam? Are you local, or if you had to kind of move some distance for the opportunity?
So I think I've been quite lucky. So I'm based in Cardiff, so I still live in Ystrad. But at the minute, obviously, with everything being virtual, pretty much working from home most of the time. But they've allowed us to have like a flexible working pattern. So it's 2 days in, 2 days out, 3 days out, working at home really. But I think the problem with that then is that people aren't building those networks and connections that they would be if they were seeing people in person.
Yeah. And can I ask Mr. Parry, what's your feeling when it comes to young people? Do you feel that they are rooted in their place, or is there a general willingness to move around the country wherever the work becomes available to them?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. So in a couple of ways, really. One of the things I'm probably most proud of, we talk about students achieving qualifications, and you can see that even after they leave school, they continue to achieve those qualifications. But one of the really important roles the school has got is supporting students with all those softer skills, and one of those is courage and bravery. Yeah. And one of the things I'm really proud of about this school, and I know it's the same right the way across Caerphilly, young people from Caerphilly are prepared to travel, whether that is for university. They don't all just go down to Cardiff University or Swansea. We've got students that travel right the way across the country in order to go to university, and then similarly with employment. So obviously, as we keep in touch with all our young people as they leave school, we know that there are students working right the way across the country in a variety of different jobs. And so they are brave, and they will leave and they will travel. And I suppose one of the things I mentioned to Sam when we were talking about this, that we're probably really lucky in Caerphilly that we've got really good transport links. and students can leave and travel to Bristol or Cardiff, and that's a good thing. And on the other hand, you know, what we want to try and do as well is encourage students to come back and make sure that they are, you know, taking up opportunities that exist within our own community as well. So I think it's making sure that we reinforce that message more than anything else. And then just briefly, I think as well, those former students that really go on to travel, and we're lucky that we're in contact with people all around the world that are willing to come back and work and talk to us, to really show them that we're not even limiting our kind of employment opportunities to the UK, that we're lucky to have people that can talk to us from Singapore and Hong Kong and America will come back and talk to us virtually, which is why what we're able to do now is a huge advantage for us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Phil Bevan. You're on silent, Phil. Back on silent, sorry. Phil, you're back on silent.
Okay. I haven't done this before, you see. Sam, sorry about what I have done quite a number of times. Sam, I'm sorry about that, but you've gone to work for Deloitte. It's a massive company. I've got a granddaughter working down there now, and her father, he's just retired, was responsible for getting all the properties around Cardiff. But apparently now they're abandoning the properties and asking people to work from home. So I think your future will be working from home, unless, of course, you can recall into the office. But it is a big company, isn't it? And they do look after you very well.
Yeah, I know the Bevans actually. I didn't click on, but yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, so there's
Mena, is it?
I know both Andy Bevan and Mena, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, there's when I first started, there was about 800 staff in Cardiff, but now there's 1,500, so it's constantly growing. There's loads of opportunities in Deloitte, especially in Cardiff. It's our second biggest campus in the UK. And just coming back to a point Mr. Parry said earlier of people reaching out with jobs in the community, I myself have reached out to old teachers mentioning that there are jobs going in Deloitte. If students were interested, then I'm happy to speak to them. But yeah, to your point around working from home, I don't know what the confirmed guidance is, but I know that they probably will look to reduce, obviously, capacity in the office and keep people working from home if they can.
Yeah, well done, Sam, on getting the job, because I know the recruitment process you go through is pretty tough, and you've got to be good to get through. So well done to you.
It is, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Carol Andrews.
Hi, yeah. Well done to Sam and Becky. It's brilliant to hear your stories. And I was really lucky. My daughter went to Healthy and had a very similar story. Started off with A levels. Failed her AS levels, changed course, ended up doing some BTECs, and she's just qualified with a first class degree as a mental health nurse. You know, these stories are out there, and it's brilliant to hear. Our schools are really, really good at caring for our young people, I think, and directing them. And I know I've been into Lewis School with Mr. Parry for different events, so I know that we're really lucky with our schools. They're really caring for our young people. So it's great to hear your stories. Thank you.
Oh, lovely. And yeah, I'd like to say congratulations to both Sam and Becky. I mean, it's a great achievement. I mean, Becky, to be chosen, and did she say one in about 500 to 1,000 applicants? That's amazing. And Sam also, you know, to be able to get 3 qualifications in 1 year shows how hard you had worked on that. And yes, congratulations to you both, and I hope you have thriving careers. And I'm sure Mr. Parry will call on you every year to come back to the school to encourage other students. And that is the point, isn't it? To encourage other students to know that there are opportunities out there, and you know that you can go far. And yes, you can change course in the, you know, not everyone knows exactly what they want to do at the age of 16 or 14 or 18 or even 21. So congratulations to you all, and thank you, Mr. Parry. To bring these two youngsters along to this meeting is fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, thanks both. That's excellent. Right, you can go on and do your normal kind of like young people life now. That's good.
Brilliant. Thanks all. Cheers.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
So I'm going to have to apologise now because that was so wonderful. I feel that anything else now is going to be an anticlimax. So apologies, but it was fantastic. Okay, I'm just going to come back to the presentation. Okay, you should be able to see that. Okay, and back to John. Are you there, John? You're on mute.
I think I'm off mute now. Right, great. Okay, brilliant input there from the students and from Chris Parry, so thanks very much for that. It really puts life into these sort of presentations, doesn't it? Gets you a feel for where young people go and the different decisions they have to make. Chris was talking about the junctions, Junction 14, Junction 16. The screen in front of us now is about Junction 14. And I just want to pick up quickly the point that Chris made about flexibility of approach within the schools. These presentation slides will be available to you after the meeting, so we're not going to go through the detail that's in this quite dense slide, but simply to indicate that there are a range of different pathways to suit the needs of different students at the age of 14 through to 16. And there's a lot of vocational mix in there, and you'll see that many schools, this is a sort of a resume, if you like, of returns from schools across the county. There's a lot of vocational programs in there, and anything from sort of entry level, level 1 programs, all the way up to the most academic level 2 programs, with youngsters at the top pathways doing fully academic programs. But even in the top pathways, where these days there's relatively little choice of options, most schools are only offering 3 options in the mix outside the core subjects of English, maths, numeracy, etc. But there's still scope for vocational offers even in the top level groups of students. So a very flexible approach by schools, adapting and modifying their curriculum models at Key Stage 4 to meet the needs of all the students in there. And what we're going to look at next really is to move this forward and say, well, with all that background of different pathways at Key Stage 4, where can you go next at Junction 16 and move on from there? So if we move on from that point, if you come off that, Paul, I'll come in with the website tour.
Ooh.
Hopefully, here we go, coming up. I hope you can all see this now. Chris was keen to point out that you know, he's very thankful that he's got a group of very experienced staff in school who understand pathways and have a great knowledge of the opportunities available to young people. And what we wanted to do here was to make sure that opportunity is available to every youngster right across the county, irrespective of the schools they're in, and also available to parents, because there is a very important discussion to be had, of course, between young people and their parents about progression routes at post-16. And so what we're going to be looking at here is a website which has specifically designed to bring a whole multitude of sources of information on progression into one place, so it can be easily searched by young people when they're trying to work out which direction to travel in. So I'll take you quickly into the site. It's Welcome to Caerphilly Pathways, and there's a range of opportunities that we've got posted here. There are obviously sixth form provisions within the county. We have a number of colleges that work very closely with us, and external work-based training support as well. And Chris mentioned Educate in there. So this is the core of where the website begins. But beyond that, from this homepage, you can also get a lot of information on youngsters who are working at perhaps at foundation level, level 1, entry level qualifications through the My Future pathways, traineeships, apprenticeships, and so on. And we'll have a quick look at each of these in turn. But let's start at the top here, and with our sort of partner providers, because just quickly linking on from Chris's input, Educate was mentioned by Chris. It is a local training provider. And so what we provide here is the links to Educate. And we pick up on what Educate are about, what they offer, the values of that particular work-based training provider, and then we provide links to all the information that is on the Educate site. And so, for example, Chris was keen to mention the apprenticeship routes for Educate, and students can investigate that. And here is the apprenticeship page and the offer that Educate will put out there for young people. And it's a bit slow in loading up this evening, but here we go. So these are all the different opportunities that are available. As you can see, they're coming up in line here from that particular training provider. So we provide all those sorts of links, and youngsters can therefore take their time to explore the opportunities for each of the training providers. We mentioned Educate, but equally we have other ones that are working with us, ACT, iTech, both local, Cardiff City Football Club Foundation, and they offer a whole range of programs down in Cardiff, which youngsters access from Caerphilly, from traineeship, entry-level programs, level 1, level 2, level 3 programs. So all of these things are being brought together in one location for youngsters to be able to seek that out, that information, and follow the threads to find out more about these programs. Other partners that we have within the mix here, ISA is the hairdressing specialist and beauty treatment for training there. We've got the Inspire to Work program, supported from European funding to get youngsters ready for work and employment. Clamai, which works for homeless people, but also upskills them and gets them ready for job placements. And then the Launder Farm is at the other end of the market. This is offering work experience in a farm situation for students who want to go on to study veterinary medicine. So we've got programs for a wide range of young people to investigate and follow. And this is an evolutionary sort of website in that we can continue to add and adapt and put more partners in as they come forward. Now, the college courses are quite important. We have around about 1,500 youngsters last year go into colleges locally, post-16, and around about 500 from the schools, so into the school sixth forms. So the colleges are quite important to us. And again, we provide information and the links to those sites. So following Coleg Cymoedd, they provide us with an introduction to their college and then links on to their own website. They've got videos about their future in that college, and they have YouTube accounts. And at the other end, we've got Cardiff and Vale. We have several hundred students that go down to Cardiff and Vale every day from Caerphilly. Again, they provided us with an introduction and all the links that they think are important for Year 11 in particular to follow to get the information that they need to apply to that particular college and look through all the courses. So going back to our homepage, the other element, of course, is our own sixth forms. And we have sixth form partnerships in the Upper Rhymney Valley and Caerphilly Basin, and in the sixth form at Cwmrymni. So we provide a platform for them to provide a prospectus for their students, And if we just go into the Lewis Pengham area, it's the Upper Rumney Valley Partnership. And once we go into this particular site, the heads have laid out quite clearly from that partnership the aims that they have for youngsters coming through their sixth forms. And then we have information which we can provide for them. It's important for us to be able to link students back into the actual school websites. So if we go to Lewis Pengham, for example, we've got all the contacts laid out for the students and links to the school websites and sixth form pages. And the same is true for the other schools within the partnership. The other main part of this section for the school sixth form prospectus is the sixth form courses. And here you've got the full list of provision that's laid on by that particular partnership. So it's an extensive offer of A to Z subjects there. We also list them out in terms of their categories, if you like, that are provided by Welsh Government, with an indication of whether the courses are A-level courses or vocational courses, mainly BTEC provision, but with also some WJEC vocational diplomas. So a very broad mix of subjects right across the spectrum offered by that particular partnership. Now, one of the things that we're very keen to see is that youngsters get a chance to see where these programs might lead. And so we provide further information on that. And this is, I'll take you just through the one subject, but it's there for all the subjects. So an indication of why you would want to study the subject, a summary of the A-level content, and then we provide details of the actual units of study through that program. And all this information can be printed out as a PDF at the push of a button for students to access. We have agreed across the partnership what the entry requirements are for a particular A-level program. The course details, there's a link here which will take you straight to the WJEC website, and you can have the full detailed specification if you want to see it. Case studies are something which we're going to develop as the next phase, and you've heard Chris talk about the alumni at Lewis Pengham, and we would really like to hook into as many of those as we can and provide and amplify the case studies section of the website going forward. Progression routes. Where would this subject take you? Well, we've got just a selection here. These are all extracted from the Careers Wales website. And if you click on any of those, it will take you straight into the detailed information about those particular careers on the website. And these are just a sort of a taster, if you like, of what's could be at the end of the road for a biology A-level. The other link is to say, well, where next in terms of education? Well, higher education might be the possibility for youngsters doing A-level biology. And here we've got a focus on South Wales university courses from Cardiff across to Swansea, and a selection of the degrees in which they offer. So hitting any of these buttons will take you straight into the website for Cardiff University in this case, and the biological sciences degree, and you can then follow this through and see all the information about that particular degree. So it allows youngsters to begin to see down the line, and this could be somebody as in Key Stage 4, not even doing A-levels yet, but thinking about it and looking ahead and thinking, where might I want to end up? Well, we can go a little step further than that, because there's the other aspect is looking at the wealth of information that is out there to support students from professional organisations. And if you went to, for example, the Royal Society for Biology, Careers Resources, they have a stash of fantastic resources here, and you can go down this list here and it will take you through all manner of approaches, including apprenticeships, as we mentioned. The switching of vocational and academic routes, as Chris indicated, can take place at all sorts of points in time. It could be a postgrad switch to an apprenticeship, a pre-grad, it could be from sixth form, from post-16. And so we're trying to make as much information and links as available to youngsters and their parents and their teachers to explore these over time to end up hopefully making wise decisions about the future. And so you can follow these links here, and it'll all take you into the specialist careers areas that those people provide as resources. So in a sense, what we're trying to do is do the hard work of research and bring all this information into one place for youngsters. And then finally, we've got the apprenticeships, whether we've got specific apprenticeships for a subject area like this one here, we will be adding those into the mix. So those are the main sources that we have back in here for the provision of information around progression routes at a particular level or through local training providers. I'll just quickly relate to these ones. There are youngsters in schools who are only working at entry or level 1, and Careers Wales has a website specifically dedicated for those youngsters for easy to read information. So if you are at a particular pitch within the school curriculum, this might be a more appropriate route to investigate. Traineeships, these are youngsters who have not, got to that full level 2 yet, the 5 GCSE sort of mark. So what are traineeships? What do they involve? How can you get on them? The different levels of a traineeship, they're all there. But traineeships are actually changing. So from next April, there'll be a different take on traineeships, and we've already provided the links to that information from April 22, and the link down here to Welsh Government briefings on how things will change for the future. So we're going to try and keep youngsters, fully informed and up to date with the latest developments in provision from Welsh Government. So that's traineeships. There's been quite a lot of talk about the apprenticeships, and so we do have sections for apprenticeships here. We provide the sort of basic definitions for apprenticeships, foundation level, higher degree. So again, emphasizing that point that you can launch into these vocational type routes at all sorts of different levels in the mix. Detailed information on apprenticeships can be found from Careers Wales, Welsh Government. These are links through to those sites. And I rather like this one, apprenticeships, a genius decision. Well, I think probably 2 of our young people this evening might well agree to that. So you can follow that link through. But further than that, we have links here to national websites where there is a lot of information about apprenticeships. And if you want to search for them to find out exactly what's available at any given point in time, we've got Careers Wales, Welsh Government and UCAS sites. And also in Caerphilly, all our secondary school students have access to Unifrog, which is a fantastic resource for university information and apprenticeships. And it's updated every 24 hours on all the available apprenticeships across the UK. But if you want something more locally, then here's all our training providers and colleges, and they all offer apprenticeships, and click on those and it will take you straight into the apprenticeship pages in a local context to see what is on offer. So I hope you see this. We're trying to take a lot of the work out of actually, surfing the internet by bringing all the information into one place. Quickly through the last blocks here, careers paths. This is taking you into the Careers Wales website, and there are a lot of tools which are available within Careers Wales, and you can see here they've got planners, courses, training, more information on apprenticeships, support, job information, job matching quizzes, buzz personality quiz, and so on. So there's a lot of information there we can direct youngsters straight to within Careers Wales. Welsh Government also provide quite a wealth of material. So the Working Wales website will take you in and say, right, you've just got your exam results. It's the start of your story after GCSEs. Where do you go next? And again, a wealth of information from Welsh Government laid out, which the youngsters can find, whether it's going into employment, getting a traineeship, and in some cases volunteering as well is a useful starting point for some young people. So heading back to the main page, the Your Future Festival was held last July, and the resources from that are being held online until the end of next July. one of the interesting things in there is they've got a lot of podcasts from the Hay Festival that was held this year, with lots of literary figures giving really interesting talks to young people, which they can all access through that. The post-16 provision, which encompasses both colleges and schools and is run by Careers Wales, is down at the bottom left here. And then two specialist areas, the SEREN network. We've got support for the brightest students in Wales. Many of you will have come across the SEREN network, both at Key Stage 3 and 4 and at post-16. And so we have the links here and the contacts for SEREN support within the Caerphilly context. So those youngsters who are aiming to head for the Russell Group universities, Oxbridge, and indeed to the top flight universities in America, quite a number of youngsters from South Wales now go across to those universities. The SEREN network is there to support them. And I mentioned Unifrog earlier. This is available to all secondary pupils from the age of 11 upwards, and they can search every single one of the 30,000 undergraduate courses in the UK, across Europe, Australia, and America, Singapore. There's the whole wealth of the world is open through this, plus the apprenticeship platforms as well. So we are not short of information. So this basically is designed to make all the information out there that we can find accessible to teachers, to parents, to students, and get them started on those discussions. In itself, it's fine, but the greater use of this site is when people explore it together, maybe with a tutor, maybe with a pastoral support person, maybe through a head of department. But we want to make sure that wherever you are in Caerphilly, you know the full gamut of pathways that are available to you, where they can be followed, how they can be followed, what you need to do to get there. And then you can make some good decisions about those with the support people that you have around you. So I hope that's been of interest to members this evening.
Thanks, John. If you could just unshare your screen for us. Jay, would you like questions about the website now, or do you want to wait? We're nearly at the end of the presentation. Would you want to wait till the end, or do you want questions now?
Well, we have two members wanting to ask questions. Perhaps if we can take those two, or one now. Councillor Phil Bevan, and then we can move on then.
Yeah, John, an excellent programme, and I think you've done all the things you said you were going to do, is to make it available to... It's the sort of thing I had when I was in the grammar school in Caerphilly many years ago. I don't recall anything about a career in the grammar school. I was just wondering whether, is this presentation is going to be made available to us? Will we be able to get in the links as well?
Yes, so the intention is there's a little bit more developmental work to be done. But in the start of the new year, we're going to share the website with yourselves because it is being used already in some schools, and you'll have a chance to go through and really explore, the content. So
all schools have had this already, then, have they?
Can I just come in there, Paul? All schools have had an earlier version of this, which we released. In fact, we had a version up just prior to COVID. We had a wonderful event at T Penalta with all the Upper Rhymney Valley schools coming together to have a joint parents' evening. We had universities there, careers advisors. It was a really good evening, and we had the website available from there. But it was mainly towards an A-level prospectus at that time.
Right.
What we've done since then is to bring in all the vocational offers so that we are presenting it as pathways for any youngster to find out information, whatever route they want to take. So we've got a few more adaptations to do. We've got the Welsh translations are underway to go into the website to make sure it's fully bilingual. The options processes for Year 11, certainly in the Upper Rhymney Valley, will be kicking off after Christmas. So we want to make sure that the website is absolutely robust as we can get it and in good shape, ready to support that process immediately after Christmas. Yeah, but you will have links so that you can go through it.
Very good.
Thank you. If we could have a quick question from Councillor Derek Harvard, please.
Thank you, Chair. I really Phil asked the questions I was going to ask, but I do have to tell you this little anecdote. When I was in grammar school, because Phil reminded me, they had a careers officer. He came to see me. I'd been working for a month when he came to see me. I'd been in an apprenticeship a month when he called at my house to see what I wanted to do for the future. This is a great improvement. It's fantastic.
Not, Derek, this is what we had when all this, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Find your own way. I was in grammar school. The headmaster almost had a nervous breakdown because I wanted to go to tech to get an apprenticeship.
Okay, if we could move on then. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, right, just coming to the last bit now. So if I can just share again. So yeah, just to echo what everyone said, really, it's a fantastic resource, and you know, we're really looking forward to really utilising it, because the website in itself is fantastic, but the challenge now is making sure everyone uses it. And it's not just about the schools, it's about the partners, it's about the pupils. So I'm just going to hand over to Paul O'Neill, who's going to talk about that within a school context, but also within the youth service context as well. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul, and good evening, everybody. Well, we've seen a truly wonderful product in development here, and from a youth work perspective, certainly, this feels a lot like manna from heaven in terms of equipping our youth workers to have this sort of conversation with many of our young people. But just this last slide, at the risk of stating the obvious, it's really to take us through the examples of how the site would be used, because this is not wholly, the use of it does not wholly lie in any one particular area. It doesn't, for example, it doesn't just lie with schools or with youth workers or with parents, but it can be across all of those and more. So let's just go through those very briefly in no particular order. So let's look at example 1. In the school, this website will be available by a number of means. So in a group situation, in a classroom situation, the website can be put on the screen and can be navigated as a group, and people can learn from each other in terms of how they navigate it, guided by the particular teacher there. And it could be any teacher. It could be the careers link teacher, it could be a careers officer involved. It could just be the teacher in a particular subject area who is taking an opportunity in an ad hoc way to chase up on an interest that's been expressed during the lesson. So a very versatile tool that could be used at any time. Equally, that could happen in a one-to-one scenario in a school, whether or not that particular discussion started off as being about a career or moving on and destinations, it could be taken advantage of. So from a school point of view, lots of versatility. The second example then is, of course, and I think John made reference to this earlier on, in terms of use by the parent or carer with the young person. And of course, it could be a young person of any age. Young people go up to 25 years of age. They haven't necessarily got to be of school age. But what the website does is to give a tool to parents and carers to base that conversation on. We currently have lots of parents who would like to have this conversation, but don't understand where to find the information. Here we have a device, a repository, if you like, of all options, all in one place. And this is the beauty of it. Currently, this information is here, there, and everywhere. What we have done, what John has done in this case, is to construct this site, which contains everything under one roof. And therefore, parents' conversations will be stronger for that reason, and therefore young people will be in a much better place to make the right option. And of course, that can happen at any time, outside school time, with a parent or carer, in downtime, in that relaxed time, if you like. Example 3, and I would stress these examples are not definitive or exclusive or exhaustive. Example 3 is with a different type of educator. So I'm being a little parochial here, but this is engaging with the youth worker. So if you consider that youth work happens across a 13-hour day, every day of the year, and goes up to the age of 25, even if the young person that a youth worker is with is of school age, we can have that conversation in the evening, at weekends, or throughout school holidays. So we can catch that young person and have that conversation at the time when the conversation is right for that young person and in the right place. So, for example, that could be at 9 o'clock at night on a street corner with a trusted youth worker who gets the young person to download the site onto their phone. Of course, increasingly young people live their lives through their phones, don't we all? So this can be a very powerful tool for our youth workers. Equally, if we are operating education sessions online, we can have dedicated sessions looking at this type of thing for young people. And also, we don't have to wait till year 11. We do hope that this site will bring into focus the opportunities for having this discussion even earlier, so that young people can rev up to, can warm up to the idea of what they're going to be doing 16 plus. So that briefly is an example of how the site could be used. Those examples are not exhaustive, of course, but what the construction of the site gives us is that repository of all these options and destinations in one single place. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. So in summary, I'll just go to the last slide. Okay, so tonight through our presentation, we've shared lots of information, and I hope you found it useful, and it relates to best practice, and these are the set of principles moving forward. You know, we've heard personal accounts, we've seen the development work going on across the local authority, so there's a lot of motivation, you know, to create a benchmark for success to move forward. As I said at the start of the presentation, this will feed into our revised education strategy and will permeate across the work of officers within the local authority and staff in schools and other education settings. We have our self-evaluation process. You can see that we are, you know, ongoing. There's an ongoing process of considering, you know, what we're doing well and what we need to do better. And our self-evaluation process will produce a set of actions to support our ambitions, you know, making sure that pupils and young people receive the best possible support at the appropriate time, with a real focus on equity in provision. And this may include, in terms of our self-evaluation, it may include the use of data to inform future planning and the targeting of resources. So you've seen the development of the website. It's already been utilised. It's going to undergo further development, maintenance and addition of information, and it will really seek to strengthen existing partnerships with schools, colleges and other providers, and really to maximise the usage. Just to be aware, you know, we've seen a lot of information tonight, and we've got to be careful that we give the right level of information to pupils and young people. You know, we have to take into account that the pupil does not become overwhelmed with a level of information, and that's where it's the role of LA staff and school staff come in to make sure that the guidance is appropriate, and really linking back to what Chris was saying about there is a pathway, but you know, things can develop and change as we go along, and making sure that guidance is right. Now, we've actually managed to get through a whole presentation tonight without speaking about COVID. So unfortunately, I am going to speak about COVID now, but it's important to, you know, understand that this offer is within a COVID world, and we've got to acknowledge the impact of COVID on the offer. I mean, I've referenced work experience on the PowerPoint slide, as this is something that we would have, you know, there has been an impact over the last 18 months. It is important to acknowledge, though, that, you know, we continue to utilise some of the more resourceful approaches that we've taken during the COVID pandemic. You know, I'm sure you'll be aware around the Welsh Government EdTech strategy that's encouraged the use of digital devices to continue and maintain continuity of learning and communication. And this is the type of innovative practice we'll continue to embrace. So it's an approach that meets the challenge around COVID, but can also be a benefit for the learner, you know, and young person experience. So I'm going to close the slide and unshare my screen. Just thank you so much for listening. I'm going to hand back to the chair now and would welcome any comments, suggestions or questions.
Councillor Phil Bevan. You're on mute, Phil.
Proper meetings, for God's sake. It's a very great tool for careers officers, and that's going to be, I mean, it's a tool for all teachers, but the career officer is going to welcome this, I'm sure. I was just wondering if I could seek an opinion from John and Chris, if he's still there. Yes, he is. We've got 6 forms in Caerphilly, and tertiary education on the Islwyn side. And when I was doing Ross's job as cabinet member many years ago, I did ask sixth form students in the Risca school, were they looking forward to college? And they said no. Do you think the step there is a bit, a bit too soon? I mean, the step from sixth form into university, they're a lot older and they're more likely to cope with it. Because when I was on the Coleg Gwent board of governors, there were quite a number of issues there where children were going to college and then walking out because they didn't like the course or stuff like that. Is there a problem with the two different sets of two different types of education? Whoever wants to answer.
I'll go first. I don't mind.
Toss a coin, boys.
I'm happy to
Kelly
speak with
would
that.
like to come in. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the and this is something that we've talked about at length in various different settings. I think the key issue for me is, and part of Becky's story really that I could have picked up on a bit more, is that so the vocational qualification that she pursued at 16, the level 3 engineering qualification, would have been offered in the college as well. And she chose to pursue that course in school rather than in college, right? I don't think that's a reflection on either provision, and I think the key thing in Caerphilly is just the availability of choice. So, yeah. One of the things that I think is actually a strength of our setting is the fact that we offer courses that are based in schools across consortium and in colleges as well, and we kind of all work together to make sure that we've got a clear idea about who's offering what. We try to avoid duplication, but we do offer qualifications both in school and college. And then I think that linking in with parents, it's up to them and students to make a choice about which of those kind of areas suits them best. And that's reflected very much in our website. So for me personally, I think that's a strength.
Kerry Cole would like to come in.
Thanks. I'd agree with Chris. I would have been saying what Chris said there. I think things have moved on, Councillor Bevan. I think that they're really, I'm sure if there were head teachers here tonight from Islwyn, they would be telling you how hard they work at building those links with the college. For example, I'm aware in Risca, there's really strong interaction there, because I've spoken to the school recently about that, opportunities to go into the college. Sixth form isn't for everyone, and neither is tertiary education for everyone. I think that people, in Caerphilly do have that choice.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think that whichever learners choose, they generally thrive. And if it's not working for them, we'd be there to support them making a different decision. So I think, but I'm sure, going back years, I was probably one of the first ones to go to Cross Keys. It's changed so much, and links between the schools and colleges are so much more well developed. So it'd be interesting to ask young people. We're always looking at supporting our self-evaluation through talking to young people, but I'm sure we'd find that things have developed a lot since then. Thanks.
Lovely. Has anybody else got some questions? Councillor Derek Havard.
Joe, I'm shell-shocked, Chair. I must congratulate everybody behind this. It really is an approach that we could all understand, and it's been a regret for me ever since I sort of went into education that we see a lot of pupils going the wrong way, and I don't mean behaving badly. I mean they're going the wrong way for their education, because they could be doing so much better if they took an alternative route. And all I can do is say, well, congratulations on producing such a good plan, and I hope that it will work, and you'll get all my support on it, Chair, as much as I can.
Yeah, good stuff.
Lovely. Well, I have to say that the development of this site is really exciting, not just for the school careers officers but parents also. Being accessible on the website, Caerphilly Pathways is wonderful, and I realise there's got to be further development. The Welsh translation and everything, and making sure everything's in place. But a huge congratulations, and and especially to you, John, all the work that you're putting into this. It's very, very much appreciated. Well, this evening has been so good, I have to say. Chris Parry, I absolutely loved the presentations from Becky and Sam. I mean, it's so encouraging to see youngsters and the different pathways that they've gone through to get where they are now today, you know, so that was lovely. Thank you, Paul Warren, and thank you, Paul O'Neill, as well, for your presentations this evening. Are there any other questions from any of the other scrutiny members? Well, it just leaves me...
Chair, sorry to come back in, but I've been looking at this website and I've decided what I'm going to do for the next 20 years.
Very well done, then, Derek. I'm glad it's put you on a pathway. Well, it just leaves me to wish you all, well, dymuno yn Nadolig llawen a blwyddyn newydd dda, a hefyd a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But let's hope it's a peaceful, happy New Year. And, oh, the biggest wish list, it's COVID-free. So thank you very much for all the presentations this evening. It's been very enjoyable. And yes, see you soon in the new year.
Okay, all the best, Martin.
Best yet.
Thank you very